From digital watches to calculators and keyboards, and some other stuff you probably didn't realize was Casio. Why don't they make a car? Well, I'm sure there are plenty reasons, but none of those reasons are stopping me from making it myself. I'm CJ. I'm a car designer, and I will be creating the Casio car. Okay, but what kind of design language does the Casio have? Overt accessibility. Each of Casio's products display the most useful things up front, but if we zoom into something like Casio's G-Shock line, we'll notice that they lean into more of an overt utility. There is a lot of function in the device, but it's not intuitive and it's a little messy. It's also rugged and tactile, whereas other more conventional Casio products try to hide any identifiable features in its design. The reason I would avoid calling this design minimalist is because they don't make bare-bones appliances. They make complex devices, but they're just more approachable to a novice user. And that's what I'm going to try and embody when translating their design philosophy into a car. But usually what people think when they hear design language is the recognizable look of a brand, not just the intent. And I think I've cracked the one key shape that encompasses Casio's designs, but we'll get there in due time. Now, when we make a concept car, I think it's best to make a car that is desirable, that people want to have. If you think about the first Tesla, the Roadster, the car was a luxury for the time. So the plan is to make a car that is elegant, but not over the top, because that wouldn't be very Casio. I'm thinking something like the Knight Rider car, a vehicle that is reminiscent of the past, but with a glimpse into the future. So let's block out a nice shape for the car, something pleasing, but not too flashy. Okay, this just looks like the Cybercar, which is largely due to the lack of curves throughout the frame. So let's add some. With the bumper, I'll bow it forward. I'll also nudge the main window, making it curve outward. And if we look at it from the side, we can see that this roof could do with some transition adjustment, which will also lend itself handy for the aerodynamics of the car. It's these seemingly small changes that instill character into the car. One area where I can see this in effect is in the direction of the front fender. If I curve the fender so that it rounds on the way up, we can have it cut off where it meets the curve of the bonnet. And this particular shape, which you can see in a car like the De Tomaso Mangusta, provide this stumpy bird beak shape. This signals that the car is sharp and has a lot of power. And not only does the hard edge cut through the air hitting the car, but the harsh change in direction here makes the car feel like it's designed to be more function than form. But it's done in a pretty way. And to come full circle on the Casio tie-in, I'll round off the edge of this plane change, which I think works for the Casio look. I like the idea of this front grille being packed with essential features. Instead of having details tucked away under folds of the car, we can instead show them off to signal function. Like I said earlier, to make the features more intuitive. And to make this work, we can take a bite out of the classic DeLorean look, where the headlights are unmissable, whereas modern cars try to wrap the headlights across the hood or tuck them between different crevices. Now, something I still can't shake with this car is the boxy feeling of the shell, especially towards the rear. So it could make sense to integrate the trunk into the silhouette of the cabin. But if that was the best way to solve this problem, then every car would look like a Beetle. Instead, I will be taking an approach that looks at the car from a less conventional angle. And I don't think many of you will have considered something like this before. Bear with me. When artists are sculpting the human head, it's important that they understand the angles and proportions of the features of the face. And one way they'll do this is by turning the head upwards and marking out the angles of the nose, chin, lips, and brow relative to one another. This is done to make sure that the face is following predetermined guidelines of what a face should look like, but it's also to check to see if the structure of the face is compromised. And when I thought back to this, I was reminded that the rear of the car is not only visible from the side and the back, but also from the front. Now, this front perspective of the car lets us view what I like to call the hips. And you can view this as the hips of a tiger ready to pounce or a house cat ready to loaf. Thinking like this puts us in a position where we can elicit a feeling of elegance and power from the body of the car. And if we check the before and after, I think it has massively elevated the form and added some due tension to the car. And I think that this speaks to the Casio motif, because it's just these hidden minor tweaks that simplify the car in a way that doesn't impede function. Can you think of the last time the hips of a car were brought to your center of attention? Probably not. But that's because they're a hidden detail. They're supposed to elicit a feeling, but only in the back of your mind. Nextly, I want to refine a couple more features to flesh out the believability of this car. But if you remember earlier, I mentioned that there was a secret shape Casio uses over and over that is littered throughout their products. And that shape is the trapezoid. Don't see it? It's here and here, also here. Even in this round one, you have the bones of the trapezoid. It's also here, there, and here. This shape bridges the gaps of blank space you'd otherwise see across these products. And with this shape, I can make the quiet areas of the car look snug, which adds to our overall theme of utility that comes with a Casio branded product. Now you can see that all of a sudden it adds an identity to the car, and we don't just have to use these inside the facets of the car. I can take this shape and use it for something like the wing mirrors. Or another thing I opted to do was placing these pegs on the trunk, which I think could be a callback to the side buttons of the watches. Also, call me weird if you'd like, but I love this look of complexity in the back and tidiness in the front. And since this is a concept car, we can add a rear license plate and just forget about the one on the front. So if you've seen my videos before, you'll know that once I have the main features of this car set in stone, it's time to slap on a pair of wheels and 3D print this thing. And I tend to print these things anywhere between half a Hot Wheel and 200% Hot Wheel scale. So while that's happening, I'd like to introduce you to the new name I've given this car, because if I have to put in the work to design this thing, I should get to name it. But since I don't work for Casio, I'll name this car something that has the same spirit, but doesn't infringe on their trademark. So I'm calling this the Abacus Uno, because you can count on it, and it's the first of its kind. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button, and watch this next video, because you'll like that one too.